Natasha, you ready?
I'm as ready as I'm ever going to be.
Okay, well, welcome back to another episode. Natasha, Elisa, and I are doing a multi-part podcast episode, really inspired by, you sharing your brave story about all these years we've known you as a celebrity mommy on the radio and blogger. And, most famously, the ex-wife of Kane. And so here we are. You did that brave 3-part podcast series, talked all about your lives. And then we said, you know what? These issues are so big, we're going to continue.
I mean, I still cannot get over that. Just making that one small decision to do the interview with you would have led to all of this and this amazing opportunity that we have to just continue sharing all of these, nuggets that we've learned along the way. And they're actually helping other people, which that's all I ever wanted. I don't care about thousands and thousands of downloads. When I get that one message in my inbox that was like, I heard the podcast this week, it was exactly what I needed to hear. Thank you. Case closed. That's it.
It's so good. And actually, a friend of mine listened to, some of the most recent ones. And I think there's an author, I'm going to find the name of the book, but basically why it's so hard for adults to make adult friendships and keep them, in light of you sharing about, your friend betrayal. And I've certainly had many friends come and go in my life. So I was going to reach out. I don't have enough information, but I was going to find that because I thought that's another great topic for conversation that touches both of us. And when I left the Kane show, everybody there were dear friends of mine for years. And then it was like the next day, we just never spoke again.
Yeah, like poof, they're all gone. You make this radio family your actual family. Not thinking about when the show ends, or at least my role in the show ends. There goes the family. But I need to read that book because friendships I'm not so great at. So pass that one along.
Well, look, today we're going to talk kids. We got a message. I thought this was great. A woman who basically said, the podcast series with Natasha is amazing. Is it possible for you guys to discuss more about the kids' mental health and the struggles that both of you have faced being moms? My husband went through a very rough divorce with his ex-wife. She did not allow him to see their daughter for a very long time and kept telling their daughter lies about him. His daughter is now 13 years old and she has suffered a lot. So I'm curious if you guys could do an episode on parenting. So today we're going to talk parenting, the good, the bad, the mom guilt.
God, all of it.
All of it. But before we get into that, like, how was your week? We've been leading with our highs and our lows. What's a high low for you?
Oh my gosh. This week has I'm just going to throw the F word out at the beginning. This week has been a clusterfuck. Like I've written off the week already. Sorry if I sound like totally nasally, but you remember I mentioned last week how Harry got sick on Halloween and just like spiked a high fever. Yes. And it kind of went away. And then he broke out in little sores all over. And he's had hand, foot, and mouth. Oh my gosh, that kid gets it several times a year. He's probably had it 7 times by now. So I figured that was it. And he got over it and went back to school. Well, a couple days ago, I started getting a sore throat. Figured I'm getting whatever virus he had, it'll pass. And Monday night, I woke up in the middle of the night just like shivering and long story short, had 102.3 fever, which as an adult, like that doesn't happen, at least to me, that often. So felt awful. I had a doctor's appointment the next day, thank goodness, for my wrist, which I'm just falling apart at the seams, Sarah. Like, change me in for
a my God. Okay.
I sprained it. You know how you swing kids like a different adult holds their hands while you're walking and you swing them?
Yeah.
Sam and I were doing that in Florida and apparently I sprained it. So I went to see her for that. I'm like, by the way, I feel like shit. I have a fever. My throat is killing me. And she's like, let's do a strep test. I was like, and COVID and flu and all that. I was like, I've never had strep. 42 years have never had strep. None of my kids have ever had strep. We have like some magic immunity, but fine, whatever. Of course, 2 minutes later, it's strep.
Yeah.
So I have strep for the first time in my entire life. And I feel so bad for any kid that had it. And I thought like, strep throat. All the kids get it. They're fine. It's awful. It's not fun. It's not fun.
No, you've been sick. That's the worst.
Yeah, especially, when I'm like happy with my situation 99% of the time. Being a single mother and, having the girls and Harry, we're good most of the time. But this is that 1% where it's like, oh, it'd be so nice to have somebody to kind of dote on me and pamper me, take care of the kids in the
Yeah.
house. Because, of course, once I'm out, the whole house is falling apart for 2 days. But just, have like a significant other that's like a caretaker.
Yes, someone to
That'd
go
be
get you
kind of
chicken
nice.
noodle soup. Yes. I mean, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And, leave you in bed and tuck you in and everything. But whatever, maybe one day. I've got the dog sleeping with me, so I guess that'll have to do.
Yeah. The dog's there instead.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So that's my low. I'm hoping the antibiotics will kick in soon. But my high, I actually mentioned this to you over text, was on Monday. Thank goodness, right before my body fell apart. I took Sam on her first high school campus tour.
oh my God. I cannot believe Sam is going to be going to high school.
How old do you feel right now? And
Old.
all you
I
guys
remember.
listening that have been following me since Samster Mommy blog 14 years ago, the kid is going to high school next year. Insane.
In
So we went and toured a local school, and it's just like in awe of her and so proud. She is an incredibly shy kid. She's very introverted and doesn't, likes uncomfortable social situations, unfamiliar social situations. But when we were meeting with the admissions lady, she just sat right up and she asked questions. Of course, they were like, what's the dress code and can I use my phone? But she still asked questions about the school and answered questions articulately. And it's just like having one of those moments where I kind of just looked back and was like, you are awesome. I am so glad I get to be your mom. You're
proud
such a
mommy
cool kid.
moment.
Yes.
Proud
Yeah,
mommy moment. Oh my
it was
God. That's so
nice.
good. Those are
Yeah,
good highs and lows this week.
it was good. I have to admit, I tried to dress like a little cool, which I probably shouldn't have even tried because it probably made me uncool. But I was like, if I'm going to walk around a high school, if I'm old enough to be a mom of a high schooler, I at least am not going to look like mom of a high schooler. It's like, no, no sweats today. No, like, old lady sweater. I gotta get it together.
All right, I love that. Well, mine will be really
Good.
quick. My high of the week is KJ liking his little daycare preschool.
Oh,
So,
good.
the first week was really rough. Then he had his first ear infection from school. But now we're getting to the point when we go and say our goodbye, he cries. But his little aunties message us on the portal and they say, look, he only cries for like 30 seconds a minute now. And he's off. They had a dance party yesterday. The theme of school this week is squirrels. I don't know what the hell that means. I don't know if they're acting like
Sorry,
squirrels or
what?
like, I don't know. Squirrels are the theme of the week. So that makes me happy because I do think it's so hard with parenting, figuring out like when to stick with something with your kid, when to like know when to let them quit. It's even though I know he's 18 months old, he's not nearly ready to make those decisions, but it's yeah, it's so hard sometimes to trust your gut. So I'm glad. And what I love about Schman is Schman's a little bit. Schman, by the way, is the nickname we call Dan on the podcast, Natasha. We have for years because after for years talking about him as Dan, he was like, I don't want my name out there. So we nicknamed him Schman because it was like too late. But anyway.
So, like right now on the podcast, you explain that his real name
Yeah.
is Dan. Way to go,
So
Sarah.
it's great because he's really good, I think, at maybe sticking with things a little bit longer than I would. And so I like that balance because like day 2 or 3 of him crying, I just would have been like, okay, he's not ready. And then now seeing him like get into the dance party is like, all right, that's great. Because if he were at home, we're not going to be doing a dance party. We both have to work. We got to run around and do these other things. So that was a high. My low was, I had a work situation where I'm working with a team on a project and we had to pitch the project this week. And the entire team, like all of us just didn't do our best. I didn't do well pitching. Then the 2 people that we were pitching, I'm pitching all my TV show ideas, right? So the 2 people we were pitching to didn't really give us any feedback. So it was very hard to read. I was kind of disappointed with my 2 teammates. Like they didn't do well. And You know what? And then I didn't even really go forward and sort of have a constructive like breakdown meeting with them and say, hey, how could we do better? So I'm kind of like beating myself up. Like, one, you need to send an email and get back, like, kind of have a check-in with your teammates and go, hey, did you guys feel like this was that good? I didn't. What could we do better? So I'm kicking myself for not doing that. And then I don't know, just, I have to stop thinking about it, I guess. You know what? It wasn't good. We
Are you
can
sure it
regroup,
wasn't
move on.
good? Or is this one of those things where, you walk out and you're like, this was terrible. It was awful. Like I felt that way after our first couple podcasts. Like, oh my gosh, I was awful. That was terrible. And then like in actuality, it wasn't really that bad. Could it be that
Well,
thing?
I did talk to one of my teammates and they were like, look, when you do these pitch meetings, sometimes the people who seem the least interested are the most interested. So you can't read into it. So I guess I'm trying to get to a place. And this was something like I wish I had done better on the Kane show. I took everything so personal when I worked on the Kane show. And I think now I'm getting to a place with this business where you really, yes, when you, of course, like you want your teammates to do well, you want to perform your highest, but you also at some point have to like, you can't internalize every single thing. So I'm trying
Yeah,
to
that
find
makes sense. That
yeah.
makes sense.
So there you go. That
Sure,
was
it
my,
was fine. I'm sure it was fine.
and 3 weeks
Just,
later,
have a dance party with squirrels like KJ and you'll feel better.
there you go. All
Squirrel
right.
week.
I'm so curious about this topic because you and I have from toddlers to teenagers
Mm. We
and
cover it all.
cover it all. And there's so much to talk about parenting, your own child's mental health. Sam and Soph I can relate to so much because I lost a parent too when I was in high school. So I know that journey that they're going through, they have ahead of them. Harry has two amazing parents and sisters. So I'm curious, like with having three kids, what is the biggest obstacle do you think in raising healthy children now? Like, I know that's a huge question, but what do you think it
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of the hardest things is just having such a massive age difference. The girls are at a completely different place than obviously where their 4-year-old brother is. So trying to find not just activities for them all to do, but when it's, a joint parenting situation, like, they don't want whatever we have for dinner or something, I handle it completely differently with the girls than obviously I do with him. And sometimes I think they get a little frustrated, seeing me parent them differently. So that is a huge challenge for me. But I mean, at least with Harry, I've had 2 chances to do toddlers before, so I feel like I kind of have it down by now. But with the girls, and especially with Sam, teenagehood is new territory for me. And I feel like at least this is something I've come to peace with is that parenthood is figuring it out as you go. You can read every book out there, but so much of it is trial and error, trusting your instinct, trying to do the best, but you're going to screw it up and you're going to make wrong decisions. And then you just have to kind of repivot and try to get it back on track again. But it's definitely a brave new world going into the teenage years.
Oh my God. Natasha, I'm curious. Obviously, I have such a little one. All yours are in school. And, when you talk to other parents, like you hear the same themes, I feel like over and over. Bullying's an issue, social media, cell phones, like what they're doing on social media. Now, you read things like kids play fewer sports. They just want to play video games. They want to just be on screens. What do you think, like, what's your experience been with these societal themes that are difficult with teens and preteens? What have you found to be some of the challenges?
Oh, well, definitely that you nailed it and don't underestimate that. I remember once Peter and I were, it's like a dumb story, but we were at the pediatrician's office for the girls and they were a couple years younger, not quite teenagers. And I remember he was annoyed that I was letting one of them take melatonin when she couldn't sleep, when she was really stressed out. So he asked the pediatrician, like, is this dangerous? Is she going to get addicted to melatonin? And she was like, listen to me. The thing that you need to worry about the most with soon to be teenage kids is social media. Social media is the thing that I see that harms teenagers more than anything else out there, more than alcohol, drugs, sex, anything. It's what social media does to a young brain, and especially a young girl's brain, and how it affects their ability to develop their self-confidence, just their whole mindset about who they are. And I never forgot that. And it's been a very tricky road. I excuse me. I just let the girls both have private TikTok accounts, because here's the thing, and this I've struggled with. I wasn't going to let them have any social media, but then they came to me and they're like, all of our friends have it, and we feel like we're missing out because, they're all talking about what they saw on their social media and the videos they shared with each other. So you're kind of like ostracizing us by letting us have nothing. And I felt like that was kind of a valid point. Like, you kind of have to balance it out. But I wasn't just going to open the floodgates and say you can have whatever you want. So I agreed they could both have private TikTok accounts that I have the password to, that I am a follower of, so I could see everything they're doing. And they could only have a limited amount of friends. It could only be their actual close friends. It couldn't just be everybody out there. And I sat down and I had like a real serious talk. The thing with teenagers is their eyes glaze over. So I just hope some of my words sunk in about, if you start feeling bad about yourself, like let's say you post a video, doing one of these silly TikTok dances in your room and it doesn't get a lot of likes, is that going, if you find yourself suddenly thinking, and I have to remind myself this as an adult on social media, like there's something wrong with me, or you feel bad about yourself because of the way likes went on social media, then it's time to take a step back. And with the negative comments, that's been a tough one too. Like and that's why I tried to limit it to just their close friends, because I don't want strangers or, who knows out there leaving hateful comments and it then ruining their self-esteem and how they feel about themselves. So that was some of the parameters I put down. I just let Sam, now that she's 14, get Instagram, same thing, private and only with her friends. But of course they want everything. Now they're like, can we have Snapchat? I'm like, hell no. No Snapchat. Nothing good comes from Snapchat.
Yeah, right. Right.
It's tough though, Sarah. It's really tough.
Right.
I mean, it's not something you or I ever had to deal with when we were growing up, which I'm kind of grateful for, to be honest.
Okay, I'm curious about this too. I have like 1,000 questions for you always, but so how has it been navigating? Because the girls have had public figure parents, right? So I'm also curious about this, obviously with KJ, and like I put my whole life out there, like I want to be famous, I would be a talk show host, like all these things, right? I mean, you've kind of lived it. Like everybody in the DC area knows who their dad is, knows part of the story probably, or what they think the story is. Tell me, as much as you can share, how that has been for you, for the girls. How much are they aware of?
That has been, I mean, man, his success was obviously such a blessing because, it financially opened up a lot of doors for us. The girls can go to great schools, their college is set and everything. But the price that they pay for it was nice when they were younger, and you probably experienced this with KJ. People would recognize us when they're out and they'd recognize the girls and be like, oh my gosh, I love your dad, or I love your mom's stuff. And it was fine. But now, I mean, he's been dead for a year and a half, and they still get other kids Googling him and bringing it up to the girls, or, just making ugly. I remember there were some mean girls that were teasing Sophie last year, and they made a comment about like how your dad was arrested and now he's dead and stuff, and just like ugly stuff like that. So that's been really hard, and I can't protect them from what's already out there, obviously, other than we talk about stuff to exhaustion. I mean, I don't have a lot of filters with the girls. We talk about everything. And I sat down and talked with them before I did the podcast with you and before I went back on social media at all, because I went off for almost a good year after Peter died. And I sat down with them because now it's not just my life that I'm putting out there. Their friends are on social media. So it's Sam and Sophie's life that I'm putting out there, and they have a right to their privacy when they want it. So it's been tricky. I have to check in with them a lot to make sure I have their blessing for things. And they'll tell me sometimes. It was a few weekends ago that I was taking videos of some stuff that we were doing. And they both kind of said to me, Mom, you're taping too much stuff for Instagram. Can we just like put away the phone and just have this just for us? I was like, oh crap. Like from the mouth of babes, like they were
Yeah,
telling
right,
me to put
right,
away my phone.
right.
So I check in with them a lot. It was, oh gosh, I don't know if I should tell this story or not. Although now once I say that, I probably have to tell the story. And I think I mentioned this to you. Like I had to reach out to intern John because Sam and Sophie were on his Instagram, as one of the little categories right at the
Yeah,
front.
yeah, your
And
highlights.
yeah,
Yeah.
your highlights, it was them. And it was, nothing wrong with it. It was all very sweet pictures from when they were younger. He hadn't seen them in years. So it was all younger stuff. And also stuff from when their dad died, him reading the letter on the air that he wrote to them. They came to me and they're like, we don't want to be on his social media. Like, we don't give our permission for that. So I reached out to him and asked him to take it down. And he was very sweet about it. He was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea they wouldn't want to be a part of that. But, I'm trying to give them a voice as much as I can now for how their image is used and how much of their privacy is used. Because honestly, every time I post about them, it's taking away a bit of their privacy.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be mindful of that. And it's going to be tough for you when he gets older. He may not like some of the videos you put out there.
Well, look, I mean, I'm ready to launch his YouTube channel right now and like have him reviewing toys. But, I'm not sure that.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah. Oh my God, 100%. I mean, I love the entertainment business and I'm with you. I feel like if you are, because I'm curious about this. Like I told you, when my dad passed away, everybody in the family talked about it for like 2 weeks. And then after that, it was like, move on. This was sad. We're not going to talk about it. And then basically, like 10 years later, when I got into therapy because of what was going on in the Kane show, that was one of the big themes in my life that hadn't been addressed. Right. And there was a lot of things coming up for me around that. But I feel like your approach with the girls, if you talk about everything, I mean, I would never have KJ, Dan and I are on the same page. At some point, they get to decide. Like, I wouldn't force him to be on YouTube or, be an actor. But like, I mean, I have these visions like, yeah, KJ and I are going to be like Joan Rivers and Melissa Rivers. Like I'll be the insane over the top, 70-year-old. And my son will be the one that's like, mom, this is out of control. You can't try to make out with a 90-year-old Brad Pitt. Like, I mean, it's like, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not like, I think we're entertainment people have gone wrong. And I think a lot of people have learned from these lessons, like you've seen with the Jackson family, with so many families, right?
Lohan, like child stars.
They force them to, and then they become the breadwinner for the family. And there's so much pressure on a 15-year-old who can't hit. I would never be like that. But I mean, I don't know. I love the entertainment. I mean, the power of, look, having a microphone, all the influence that we had on the Kane show. I mean, there's something to that. And if you hold the objection of being good as your goal or entertaining and helping people, I think that's very powerful. So I would start his YouTube channel like yesterday, but so far he doesn't have one.
I mean, I would just give it some thought because that's so funny. I'll be totally honest with you. That's hilarious you say that because Harry loves to watch YouTube Kids, and we'll see like Ryan's toy review, or there's this kid that reviews Hot Wheels stuff, and he's like 6, and we watch it all. And every time I watch it, I'm like, he has terrible parents that they let him have all this out there. I totally judge the parents.
Be me.
But I mean, here's what I would ask you, because I have wondered, I told you the girls have private social media, and I've thought about, should I, when I put videos of them up, should I tag their social media accounts? This was before we decided to do it private, like when I was wondering about it, because that would instantly get them, tens of thousands of followers. And the reason why I didn't do it was, and I see other people that are local, media stars and stuff, that their kids have their own social media channel or social media, handles and stuff, and they have all these followers. And I just have to wonder, social media, there's a lot of good from it, but there is so much toxicity and judgment that comes from it, even for us as adults, that to expose a child to that, maybe before they're ready, I have to wonder if the good outweighs the bad. Because it's even
Yeah.
difficult for us as adults to manage how social media affects us. So when you put that out there for a developing child, I don't know, does the good outweigh the bad?
Well, I think
I don't mean to come down on you hard at all. It's just
no,
something I've
no,
been wondering about.
doesn't bother me. I mean, I have a like I post and ghost on social media. I post and I don't care what people say anymore. And but I've been on it 10 years, and I think the longer you're on it, the more you realize, one, it's very fake. There's a lot of bots. Whatever you think of Elon Musk, right? But I mean, one of Elon Musk's trying to get out of buying Twitter was it's all fake. It's all these bots that come after you that say things, that people can buy followers. So I think when you look at, you and I talked about it, you post on Instagram, suddenly you get 5,000 followers and then 2,000 fall off. I mean, that's
Mm.
just a way for you to pay. I mean, all these outlets have to make money. The danger of TikTok, right, is it's a Chinese owned company that's mining Americans for all of our habits, our information, our, what we get angry about, so they can use that to manipulate us. I think when you look at it that way, like to me, if KJ were going to have a YouTube, it's like we post I wouldn't even have him look at any of the comments or anything. It's like, but not every child is ready for that. And I think that's what's great about you. Some kids want it. Sounds like Harry has this interest, but Soph and Sam may be like, I hate this. I don't like criticism. And I mean, I have friends that
What?
I put crap out there. They don't give a shit what people think about their political views. They don't care. Other friends of mine, they'll call me and they'll say, can you not post this? I don't like this. I don't want any negative feedback. So to me, it's all about the kid. And like if I did this with KJ and then I noticed this was really impacting him, to me it's like there's no dollar amount that's worth. I don't give a shit if Toys R Us has endorsed him for $500,000. Like it's not worth selling your child for. And I would never make my kid my breadwinner. Like I think that to me is the fucked up thing that parents do. It's like your child is not your breadwinner. If it turns out they like it and you guys make money, how lucky are you?
Yeah. And I
But
mean, listen, finally Google gave me access to my old YouTube account. And I
yeah,
was looking back at the old videos, and it's all videos I posted with Sam and Sophie when they were
yeah.
toddlers and little kids, and we were doing crafts and everything. And, like at KJ's age and for the next few years, he is going to be completely oblivious to it. So, I don't see a lot of harm that could come from it. I guess just once they get a little older, how can you stop them from seeing? They're going to want to know what, the comments are, or if you Google your own name, everything that comes with it. And it's just, when you think about the innocence of a child and like the childhood you and I had growing up, it was hard enough just with school friends judging us. We didn't have the whole internet out there that could be judging us, and social media and everything. So I don't know. I just want to keep them in as safe a bubble as I can. And as they get older, that bubble is starting to burst. But it's interesting. I mean, I can definitely see it from both sides.
All right. Tell me the parenting mistake that your parents made that you don't want to repeat. Tell me the thing they did that you want to repeat.
I mean, it's all focused around my mom because she was the main one that raised me, and she's my best friend now, and she obviously did some good things along the way. And having teenage girls, it's probably a daily basis that I think about the interactions I had with my mom at these ages when I get into situations with the girls. And, some of the things that she did great where I always felt like I could go to her with anything. And I did go to her with all my problems. And she was always there for me to talk to. One of the things that maybe she didn't do great that I'm trying to do differently is listening. With teenage girls, especially with Sophie, she's the one, she's just like me, so we butt heads a little more, and she's going through the phase where she's so emotional, and she just will, the mood swings just, come out of nowhere, and she'll do a 180 on you, and she'll be furious at me for something and then in tears. And my instinct, like my gut reaction, is to kind of tell her why she shouldn't feel that way. Like, the house is not burning down. You're not justified in feeling as upset as you do. That's something my mom did when I would get so upset. And it didn't make me feel good as a kid, because what it does that maybe you don't realize is it invalidates their feelings. So, what I'm trying to do now, and I do not do this perfectly, I have to go back to her so many times after we've had an argument, is I'm trying to just be quiet, just zip my mouth and listen, let her have it all out. And she'll go on and on for 10 minutes, but just sit and listen. And then I'm trying to say, validate feelings first, that sucks. I'm sorry you feel that way. You're obviously really upset. Instead of, why are you so upset? This doesn't make any sense that you're so upset because I, buttered your pasta wrong. Like, it can be that ridiculous. I'm not even lying. And there will be a total meltdown. But instead, like, taking a beat, validating the feelings first. And then one thing I've started doing with both of them, trying to do, let me put it that way, is asking first, do you want my advice about this? Because sometimes they don't want it. They just want to be heard. They just want to get it all out, have their feelings validated, and that can be it. And they'll go and calm down and come around. But a lot of times they do actually want my 2 cents when it's, a boy issue or friend fights, girl on girl issues. And I find when like I ask first, they're a lot more receptive to actually hear than the advice that I can give them. So that is what I'm trying so hard to do differently than my mom did. And my mom, listen, my mom got pregnant with me when she was like 19. She was very young. She did the best that she could, and she did an amazing job. But that's the one thing I'm trying to do differently, is to listen, validate feelings, and ask, do you want my advice?
Those are so good. Oh my God. And, our parents, right? Even if we have great parents, no one in life is perfect. They're just, they can't handle situations. And I'm sure you see this, but what I've learned as an adult is your parents are only as good as like how they were raised, and like how much awareness they have about their situation, one of the examples is like my brother and I were always really fat kids. Like my mom always overfed us. And always. I was like fat from the time I was like 4 years old.
Oh.
Later in life, I was always like, we gave my mom a hard time. We were like, why did you let us drink Pepsi every day and eat potato chips, in the afternoon, McDonald's anytime we wanted? And she actually said, look, when I was little, she was born in 1948. For the first 10 years of her life, she said, my parents didn't have any money. I can remember going to bed hungry. And so I never wanted you guys to feel that way. So I think I ended up like, if you ever were hungry, I just gave you anything you wanted because I never wanted you to know what it was like. And then you're like, oh, it begins to make sense, that you have that awareness. And anyway, I have a great mom too. I get emotional. She's amazing. But I think that the biggest mistake she made, I think, was, of course, this was again like late 90s when my dad passed away, but nobody went to therapy. Like people in Maine, my family always thought, well, you were nuts if you were in therapy, which of course you find out later is like, no, like the best way to be a stable person is get in therapy. So I would say, what I love is how Dan and I are still in therapy. I've had multiple therapists. Like that to me is what I would give to my kids, is like, you cannot solve this by yourself. And I loved the analogy you gave about when you were going through depression and it's like a pool. If you had this beautiful pool, would you not put chlorine in it to make it balanced? Of course you would. You'd do that for yourself. So I think that's what I would change. And then the thing that I liked, much like your mom, we could talk about my mom talked about everything with us, underage drinking. And like, it was always in my house. If you tell me the truth, you will have a lot of freedom. If you lie to me, that's when, cause she knew like we were going to drink. Right. So her thing was always, you cannot get in a car with someone who has been drinking. I don't care. Call me at 2 a.m. You cannot get in a vehicle with someone I don't care. We'll figure it out later. You stay where you are. Like, so she was always, there was never this like, you can't drink at 16. She just knew we were gonna, but it was, and she talked about drugs. Not that she knew anything about drugs, but I love that. I loved like what you had with your mom. We could talk about anything. Nothing was off limits. And that's so helpful. I think it just builds a trust between you and your child.
Yeah, absolutely. I had this conversation with one of the girls the other day. She was starting to lie to me about stuff. And it was, I mean, you said it perfectly, but it was, if you tell me the truth, I'm not going to be nearly as upset as if I find out you're lying to me about it later. Then we're going to have problems. But tell me the truth and we'll work it out. If you didn't do your homework or whatever, you screwed up and flunked a test, fine, tell me now. Don't lie to me about it. And then I find out later you were lying. But yeah, I love that.
How over the years, whether it's with Harry's dad, and I'm curious, like, I don't know, did you and Kane how did you ever resolve a parenting disagreement? So like if, Kane didn't want them to have a phone, you did. I don't even know how you dealt with that with Kane. I really don't, but like, how's it going with Harry's dad? How do you resolve? Because like the same thing with putting KJ on YouTube. I mean, I don't think Dan wants to put KJ on YouTube. I don't know if we will or not, but I'm curious. How do you resolve conflicts?
I don't have a lot of good advice for that one because I haven't had the best of experiences. I mean, well, with Harry's dad, we disagree a lot about screen time, and when we were in the same house together, it was really tough. We would just come up with compromises of, okay, so let's limit it to an hour a day of screen time. He didn't want any. I wanted, it to be a lot more freedom. And so we came up with an hour. Now that we're in this is actually interesting you bring that up because now we're in separate households and Harry's starting to have the worst tantrums, like epic tantrums when he doesn't get what he wants. And Harry's dad and he brought it up to me. He was like, is he doing this in your house too? I was like, yes, like it's an issue. So he said, maybe it's because it's too inconsistent that I have a certain set of rules in my house and you have a different set of rules in your house. And for a 4-year-old, that can be really confusing. So we have like a Google Meet set up for this Friday where we're going to sit down and we're going to go through a typical day for both of us and what our household rules are and see if, even though now we're, divorced and in 2 different houses, can we come up with some consistency on what our rules will be. And I'm sure it won't all be the same. I let him watch YouTube kid videos. He doesn't let him watch any, but I'm sure we can find some common ground just so it's not so confusing for the kid. I'm sure Harry will still have tantrums, but maybe it'll help a little bit.
Last question. Do you ever see parents and you're like, oh, I really like how they're running their household?
This actually happened to me just yesterday. I was at Walgreens waiting to pick up my antibiotic, for having strep. And there was a mom there with her 2 small kids. One was, I think, 3 or 4, and the other one was maybe 5, waiting to get flu shots. And the whole pharmacy was backed up and, everybody was waiting forever. And the youngest one, who is Harry's age, and, I told you he's having all these massive tantrums lately, was having a total meltdown because he wanted to leave. This woman, like, I kind of hated her for it. She handled it so beautifully. She didn't get revved up with him, which I tend to do when Harry is having, these massive meltdowns.
Sure.
I grit my teeth and I'm like, stop it right now. You're going to lose your videos for the next 2 weeks. Something I would never do. And I try threats. I go to bribes and I just I escalate with him. She stayed calm and cool, and she was like, I know you're frustrated. I know this is really difficult. We just need a few more minutes. Do you want to watch a video on my phone? And the kid like smacked the phone away, crying and everything. And she was just like, let's take a little walk. Why don't we just walk? And she told the pharmacist, like, I'm just going to walk around. And she just was so calm and cool and compassionate towards the kid, even though the kid was having this epic tantrum, and everybody, the store was crowded, I'm sure, was like,
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, get your kid under control. This is stressful for everybody else. But she wasn't like that. And she went and she took him for a little walk. She ended up getting a little car from the toy aisle for him. And when she came back, I mentioned her, I was like, excuse me. I was like, I just wanted to tell you, I can't believe how well you handled it. That I have a 4-year-old who's going through tantrums, and that was seriously inspirational. And at first she looked confused, like, why is the stranger telling me that? But then she said, she was like, she's like, he's actually on the spectrum with autism. But the good thing about that is it's really taught me to handle situations differently, to set the tone with my attitude and my energy. And I was just like, man, I I've raised 2 toddlers already into teenagers, and here I am learning something totally new. And I'm going to try that next time he's having a tantrum to change
Yeah.
my energy. Like
I
before,
love
I'm just like
observing.
going up and up and threatening him to an inch of his life to stop it. And I'm going to try that next time.
So cool. I love observing. And I love watching, other kids. Like you see other kids that are happy and well adjusted, and you're like, okay, something obviously has to be going right in their household. Like, what are they? It's funny. You can read the kids too. You can tell the kids that come from intense, parenting lifestyles. And oh, I mean, you can read it, even at 18 months old in this classroom, you can see the kids that are easier going and those that aren't. And
Let me
anyway,
just tell you, with teenagers, I don't know what the heck is going on out there, or if it's just, the girls are really blessed that Peter made a lot of money, and now that money can be used for them to go to like some of the best private schools in the area. I don't know if it's just like entitled rich white kids or what, but I am not observing a lot of, wow, those parents must be doing a great job. There's definitely
really,
some good kids, like the kids that, but there's so many like girls that are just seeking so much from boys. And it's just, I don't know, I that's a whole different tangent.
oh
That's a whole
no,
different sideways. But I don't know, I need some good inspirational teenage parenting, because man, sometimes I think about, would I be doing them a better service by putting them in public school or going to kids in the real world? Can I tell you? And then we can totally wrap it up. Sophie, apparently, she was sitting in a chair that had wheels on it. This is at school. And another kid wanted it. And there was a group of them around. And the kid said, I'll give you $10 to let me have the rolling chair. Sophie said no. And the girl goes, 20. And Sophie said no. The girl goes, I'll give you $50 to let me sit in the rolling
I
chair.
would have said yes, absolutely.
And Sophie said yes, as she should. And she came home and she told me about it. I was like, Sophie, you are never going to see that money. Like, come on, that's ridiculous. She came home yesterday with a $50 bill. That's a rich
Those
little
sound like good
12-year-old.
friends to me.
I was like, what?
Hey, they follow through. They keep their word, and they've got cash, so we can do stuff. This doesn't sound that bad. Where are you going with this? This is
Oh
okay.
my gosh, this is who I'm having you associate with. The kid just asked her mom. She was like, "Hey, I need $50. I paid to sit in a rolling chair for 10 minutes in class." And the mom was like, "Here you go."
No, no,
I
I
don't want them growing up having that kind of mindset. I told Sophie, I said, so, back when like I was struggling after, Peter and I separated, I said my entire grocery budget for a week was $100. That is half of feeding a family for a week that this kid just, threw out so she could sit in a rolling chair for 10 minutes. I was like, this is
no,
not what the rest of the world experiences.
I'm with you. And it sets a bad precedent that you can pay to make things go away or change. That's not, I know it's not the way. No, I think you're right to assess it all. I would be, I mean, of course, we have to learn to navigate people that have a lot of wealth and privilege and all that. But then, yeah, there's a ton of people out there that don't. And yeah, it's not
Yeah.
how that's, oof, that is fascinating those decisions you have to make. That's a tough one.
Yeah, because it's like I have the opportunity to send them to some of the best schools in the area. I have to choose a high school for Sam, and these amazing private high schools get you into Ivy League colleges. But it's also how she's going to spend these incredibly important next 4 years of turning into the woman that she's going to be. And do I want her just, in this bubble of rich white kids, elitist kids? I don't know. It's tough. The school we visited the other day seems to really put turning the kids into compassionate human beings, above just getting into the best college. So I'm hopeful maybe she gets into that one because they seem to really put on the kids, doing community work and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. That's a tough one that I don't know. That's not the way I grew up. We were poor when I grew up, and I think it made me a better person.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I'm with you 100%. Very, yeah.
So those
Okay,
are
I feel
those
love it.
decisions. We just
All
figure
right.
them out as we go.
Can't wait for next week's episode. We got a good surprise for everybody. Be very interesting interview we're going to do. Where can people follow you, message you for topics, all that good stuff?
On Instagram at Miss Pink Monster. Sophie set up my TikTok for me. Speaking of kids and social media, finally, she's like, Mom, I can't believe you're not on TikTok. Also, Ms. Pink Monster, MS Pink Monster. And then I finally put the YouTube channel now that Google gave me access again. It's Ms. Pink Monster _ because somebody else took the handle Ms. Pink Monster. I know, right? So Ms. Pink Monster _ it has all of our podcasts that we've done together if you want to see our lovely faces as we're talking about this. But it also has all of my old videos of the girls when they were younger and all the fun stuff we used to post online.
I can't wait to check it out. Okay, Natasha, we'll see you next week. Bye, gorgeous.
Bye, my friend.
Bye.